الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. I ask Allah to grant us Iman and Tawfiq, and that He allows us to get closer to Him, and that He accepts from us everything we put forth, and that He doesn't humiliate us in the dunya and in the akhirah. Before we begin today's lecture, I think it's very important for us to highlight, with the thing that's happening in the world right now, a very important principle in how the ulama understand the Shariah. And you will find that the ulama of all the madhahib will agree that the Shariah, which is known in the Arabic, has an objective which is called maqasid al-Shariah, as in the objectives of the Shariah. What are they? How do we understand what the Shariah is? What the outcome of the Shariah should be? And in order for us to have that, we obviously need to have a firm ground in knowledge of the Quran, the Sunnah, but we also need to have principles. And that's why this field and this science and this subject as the maqasid al-Shariah is very, very important, so that we can understand where to place what ruling where. Now the ulama have generally said that the maqasid of the Shariah consist of three areas. Those which are known as the daruriyat. And the daruriyat are the things that human beings need to live. And without these, life on earth would cease to exist, or cease to exist in a proper and a correct manner. And the ulama have said these daruriyat consist of 5 things. And there's a difference of opinion as to which one is more important than the other, but we will list the 5 according to what the correct opinion is in terms of their importance. So the first thing is the religion. The religion of Islam must be preserved, and the religious rights of other people must be preserved also. And when we are talking about the religious rights of the Muslim, what it refers to are the symbols of Islam, the things that are needed for Islam to exist and to sustain itself and to carry on. And we'll give examples of that and how it applies with the virus and the things that we are seeing in the world today. So Islam, meaning how Islam remains preserved and how it is applied within society and in our own lives, that must be preserved. And like I said, all of the ulama, there's no disagreement on that. The first thing is religion. The second thing is the person's life. The third thing, so anything that is needed to preserve life in the dunya is one of the maqasid and the objectives of the Sharia. Now we're talking about irrespective of whether they are Muslim or not. From the maqasid of the Sharia is that it has come to preserve human life. And anything that is needed to preserve human life must be upheld. The third thing is lineage. Whatever is needed to preserve one another's lineage. And that's why we can see, for example, things like zina and things like that are haram. And one of the greatest deeds that a Muslim can ever do is be dutiful to his parents, to his mother, to his father, and uphold the ties of relatives. Why? Because one of the objectives of the Sharia is that it has come to preserve people's lineage so it doesn't get lost. Again, irrespective of whether the person is Muslim or not. The fourth maqasid of the Sharia is to preserve people's intellect and to preserve their right towards education and not to mislead them so that they will then be in a state of ignorance. Islam has come as an objective of the Sharia to enhance education and intellect and learning. And the fifth thing that the Sharia comes to preserve, and one of the objectives of the Sharia, is to encourage and preserve wealth and economy and production, and to make sure that those rights are preserved for one another. These are the 5 that the ulama are agreed on, and like I said, there is no difference of opinion. The only difference is on how they apply and the order that they're in. So now, for example, what is a symbol of Islam? Is the 5 daily prayers a symbol of Islam? Or is it, as the majority have said, no, the Jumu'ah is a symbol of Islam, and throughout the rest of the week, if people don't pray in the mosque, it's not as if they've left a symbol of Islam. And you can see how that will apply with the coronavirus. So now, as a principle, they haven't disagreed, but in its application, you will find differences of opinion. That's the first thing. This is one of the major maqasid of the Shariah, which is to preserve the daruriyat. The second thing that it comes to preserve are the hajiyat. And the hajiyat refers to whatever is needed of a general good for the people living on earth. And if this general good is removed, humans will then live in a life of hardship. So the Sharia has come to recognize that and say, look, if mankind needs this thing, not from the essential things that they need to live, like water and sleep and those kind of things, things that if you don't have, it will cause a great deal of hardship, then Islam has come to preserve that. And it says it's wajib that we must make sure that these things are upheld. That's the second thing. So the second thing is the hajiyat, those things which are needed for a general good, for ease in our lives, and without that, it will cause a great deal of hardship for everyone. The third thing that the Islamic model of the Sharia came to preserve and to enhance is something which is known as the kamaliyat. And the kamaliyat refers to whatever is needed to make life easier, but it's not an essential. And without it, your life would be okay. It won't be difficult. But the kamaliyat enhance your life and enhance the other two in making it easier. How does that apply to the coronavirus? How does it apply to with what we're going through right now in the scenario that we're in? Before we discuss that, we have an incident, and this is from the evidences to prove that the ulama have used in proving that there are daruriyat and hajiyat and kamaliyat. And also, this is the same evidence which is used for us understanding on how to interact with diseases. Now, Umar radiallahu anh wanted to carry out jihad and make a conquering of Bayt al-Maqdis. Now, we have to remember at that time, there was no threat from outside to the Muslim Ummah. He just wanted to go forth and liberate that land. So that kind of jihad and that kind of expedition, is that from the daruriyat? Is it from the hajiyat or is it from the kamaliyat? Kamaliyat, because there is no haja and there is no darura. There is no absolute necessity. If they don't go there, there's going to be a problem. And if they didn't go there, would it be a harm upon the ummah? No, it wouldn't have been. He just wanted to go there and liberate that land. Right. So he's marching forward, and they hear that there's a plague in that region, and that then spread it towards the Muslim region eventually. However, it started off from that direction. And as we've seen before, historians have mentioned, is because of the hygiene levels and the things that they were with their food. They were having insects and rodents and things like that, infiltrated the food, and then that got imported into the Muslim Ummah, and that came with diseases, and that led to a plague. But the point here is that Abdullah ibn Amr ibn As, he said, don't go there, because I heard from the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, if you hear of a land that has a plague, and you are trying to travel into that land, don't go in that land. And if you're already in that land, don't exit that land. So now, what is Abdullah ibn Amr instilling in this situation? What is he advising Umar with? The daruriyat, the hajiyat, or the kamaliyat? The daruriyat. He's saying, no, your life takes a precedence. Your religion takes a precedence. The rights of other people takes a precedence. So Umar understood the situation and he backed down. So this is proof that some things are from the daruriyat, and some things are from the hajiyat, and some things are from the kamaliyat. And it's also proof that the daruriyat take precedence over everything else. Now when we understand that, we can now then understand with some of the things that we are hearing from this mosque as well, and other masajid, etc., as to what we should be doing, not just Islamically, but also with the changes that we should make in our routines, in our daily life, so that we can then remain preserved and that the virus doesn't affect us. And from the basic ones, we find washing hands and reducing contact with one another and covering your mouth if you need to sneeze or if you need to cough, etc. Staying away from people who have the disease already because it is contagious, or some people who have cold-like symptoms, etc. Now the Shariah says that in its asl, that would be from the hajiyat. If you know a person who has a disease or something like that, he's got an infection, Islamically it's recommended for a person to visit another person if he's not well. But if you fear that the illness is contagious, then the ulama have said then it's not recommended for you to visit that person, because it's from the hajiyat. You need to protect yourself, and if you were to fall into that, you will end up with a cold yourself. This is in a normal situation. We're not talking about coronavirus. We're just talking about a normal situation in visiting the ill. What's the ruling on washing hands? Is it from the daruriyat, the hajiyat, or the kamaliyat? Islam says no, you need to preserve your hygiene. So it's not just from the kamaliyat. But sometimes it will be from the kamaliyat. So do you wash your hands before you eat and after you eat? It's not going to harm anyone, but it just makes it nicer. So now you can understand, some of them are from the daruriyat, some of them from the hajiyat, the same action can perhaps even be from the different categories. So now, we have now entered into uncharted territory. We don't really know what's going on. We don't know what's going to happen next week. This mosque might even be shut down according to government legislation. There might not even be a Jumu'ah next week. We might not even have 5 daily prayers. And they're telling us now that we need to keep drinking water and reduce contact and wash our hands after shaking hands, if you have to shake hands, etc. All of these things, a person will think, well, I don't believe in it. It's nonsense. And I will carry on being a Muslim. But that's not what Islam tells us. Islam tells us, no, some of them are daruriyat, some of them are hajiyat, some of them got the kamaliyat. Now, a person will say, no, I want to come to the mosque. Nobody can stop me from coming to the mosque. Where do we place coming to the mosque to pray your normal salah on a regular basis? Is it from the daruriyat? Is it from the hajiyat? Or is it from the kamaliyat? Some of the ulama will say, no, it's from the daruriyat. It's wajib for you to pray in the mosque. And it's from the symbols of Islam. Whereas the majority of the ulama will say, no, it's from the hajiyat. Some of them will say it's from the kamaliyat. It's those things you get extra reward in, but if you pray at home, you'll still be rewarded. The issue here, we're not talking about the differences of opinion. My point that we're making here is that something might be from the kamaliyat, but it jumps all the way to the daruriyat automatically because of the maqasid of the Shariah. So now if Islam says, listen, it is good for you from the kamaliyat to wash your hands before you eat and after you eat. But now, if the doctors are saying if you don't do that, you might contract a virus, and then that might harm yourself, they might harm your family members, where do we place it? The daruriyat, instantly, automatically. And this is now how we can understand a basic everyday routine, but this is exactly how we understand our Sharia and the actions in the Sharia also. 5 daily prayers. If the authorities say, listen, don't come to the mosque, and we are saying, if you come to the mosque and there's going to be a large congregation, and if you find one person that is coughing and he's got those symptoms, that could affect all of you, and then you go to your homes and then it's going to spread, where do we place not coming to the mosque now? Daruriyat. Instantly. Not coming to the mosque. When some of the ulama are saying, no, it's from the daruriyat that you have to come to the mosque. But now in this scenario, it comes and now we can understand what happens next week if there is no Jumu'ah. Now the Muslim can understand, no, this is actually what the Sharia wants from us. Because this is the understanding from the ulama. Right. In about 6 weeks, it's going to be Ramadan. What do we do about Salat Taraweeh? Have you ever had Salat Taraweeh cancelled in your life? Have you ever had Salat al-Eid cancelled in your life? What do you do? It's confusing now for the Muslim. But now we understand Salat al-Taraweeh is from the hajiyat, or maybe even from the kamaliyat, and definitely not from the daruriyat. And if it means preserving your life and following the rules, etc., then this is what we should be doing. But there is a way out, inshallah. There may be a way out, because the authorities are saying that if you're in an open space, it's different, rather than being in a secluded area. I think we don't know exactly what's going to happen, but this is an example of Taraweeh. If that is Taraweeh, then what do we do about I'tikaf? I'tikaf will perhaps be cancelled as well. Is that a problem? No, because it's not from the Daruriyat in the first place. Right. These are salawats, these are everything. But what do we do about burying the dead? Now, what I've understood from the doctors is that what they do is they put the deceased into a quarantine, and that's it. And they are the ones that will bury and dispose, perhaps even of the body, because I've heard that they're going to even cremate some of these people. As a Muslim, you cannot be cremated. And as a Muslim, there are rituals connected to your janazah. What do we do about that? Those are from the daruriyat in its asl, in its origin. But now, if there is a pandemic and you don't have access to the body, and they're saying, no, you're not going to get the body, it falls under the daruriyat in the sense that now you are not in a situation to do anything anymore. So you have to try your best to get hold of the body, you have to try your best to make the ghusl and the janazah, etc. However, if there is hardship in that, then we understand that the Shariah has said is that there can be a concession for such people. Right, then what do we do about the janazah? Do we wait for the body? Do we pray Salat al-Ghaib? The person is not here yet, we don't know what's going to happen, etc. Now the ulama, and this is now the difference of opinion based on the model that we have from the Daruriyat and Hajat al-Kamaliyat. This is an application of that. The majority of the ulama have said that it is not permissible to delay. And this is from the Daruriyat. This is the right upon the mayyit. He's passed away. The Prophet ﷺ said, فَأَسْرِعُوا بِالْجَنَازَةِ, hasten the janazah. However, now a mas'ala comes, and the madhahib are looked at it. What do we do if there is a genuine need for the person to have his janazah delayed? Now in our scenario, maybe the doctors have not released it, the coroner doesn't know what to do. Now the ulama, Hanafis, have said that it's makruh to delay, but it's not haram. The Salat al-Janazah. It's makruh to delay, but it's not haram. So now, if they are saying, listen, within the next week we're going to release the body, what do we do? Do we wait or do we pray Salat al-Janazah right away? We wait. And others from the ulama, according to the Hanafis, others from the ulama have said that it is permissible, and this is the opinion of the Malikis, for you to delay, especially if there is a reason for you to delay. But the strict is from the Madhahib or the Hanabila, and they've said that it is not allowed for a person to delay. The maximum that a person should wait is a few hours, and then that is it. And that is acceptable. But it shouldn't be extended unless if there is a dire need for a number of days, 1 day or 2 days. After that, no, then you need to pray the Salat al-Janazah, and then that's it, that is done. I mean, this is an issue for the ulama to discuss, but I remember there's a fatwa from Sheikh Abdul Aziz bin Baz, rahimahullah. Even he was from the Hanbali school of thought, but even he said that if a person needs to delay the Salat al-Janazah, there is no harm in that. So now this is a practical understanding of the model between the Daruriyat and the Hajiyat and the Kamaliyat, which is that if there is a delay, it is not from the Daruriyat anymore for a person to hasten the Janazah. Then they will need to move on to another aspect of the Sharia and wait and be patient, etc. What is the ruling on panic buying? Is it from the Daruriyat that a person panic buys and he hears whatever rumors he hears and he accepts it, etc.? Or does the Sharia say, no, listen, if you panic buy, then there could be a hardship on everybody else. The elderly are not going to be able to get access to some of the things that you've hoarded up for yourself. Therefore now the Sharia has a model on that, and it says, no, you have now contradicted one of the daruriyat of the other person. Therefore it's not permissible. You understand how this is working now? And this is the depth of the Sharia. May Allah have mercy on our scholars that have passed away and preserve those that remain. Another masala that comes out from the coronavirus issue. Now, I mean, I'm not saying panic buying is a bad thing in the sense that if you want to go to the shop and you think, okay, well, there is enough here, and I think realistically I've maybe got a big family or whatever, and I think realistically if I don't buy a decent amount right now, then there's going to be a problem. But we're talking about what is realistic. Don't go overboard. This is the point that we're making, and don't cause hardship on other people, especially. Right, so that's part. What about alcoholic hand gels and sanitizers and soaps, and what about washing our hands and reducing contact and shaking hands with one another, like we have seen before? Washing hands could be from the kamaliyat. But if that is going to save people's lives, and alcohol, hand gels and sanitizers and all those kind of things are going to save people's lives, then it goes to dururiyat. If by not washing your hands enough you're going to cause hardship upon other people, etc., then it moves into the hajiyat. Allah forbid, say a person is contracted with a cold perhaps, or even just coronavirus itself. What does that person need to do? Now, understanding the dururiyat and the hajiyat and the kamaliyat, he will not fall under the kamaliyat anymore, and he will not fall under the hajiyat anymore. He will need to then isolate himself, and he will need to stay away, because the Shariah is saying, no, you need to preserve people's life, and you need to preserve your own life. I thought this is very important that we need to explain this, because some people, like I said, some people are very suspicious with the things that are happening, and they are avoiding any kind of government advice. But there are some people who are obviously very, very worried, whereas the Muslim needs to have a level of iman and tawakkul in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that he needs to protect himself by what the Sharia tells us to do physically and spiritually. But there are certain things which rulings that will now put people off, because like we said, we're moving into uncharted territory. It could be that Ramadan is even cancelled in the mosque, because they're saying at the very least, if they are going to ban public gatherings, it will be until the 3rd of April at the very least, which could then mean that it's extended further. Ramadan starts 20-something. So it could be that the mosque is even closed for Ramadan. What do? The Sharia says, no, this is from the dururiyat. However, if there is a way out, you can have an open space and they permit that, then that then falls into a different aspect of the model of the Sharia, and then it will become permissible. So now, it's very important that we understand that, and we ask Allah to give us iman and tawfiq, and that Allah facilitates our affairs, and He preserves us and our loved ones, and that He lets us see the end of this, and He makes it as a purification for us all. The book, for